In the ancient city of Damascus, where the scent of spices danced with the aroma of fresh bread, lived a humble flour baker named Hakim al-Farsi. Hakim was known throughout the bustling markets for his exceptional bread, which graced the tables of both commoners and nobles alike. His greatest treasure, however, was not his skill with flour and fire, but his son, Tariq, a bright-eyed boy of 12 who inherited his father's diligence and his late mother's quick wit. Each morning before dawn, Tariq would help his father prepare the day's dough, his small hands working with surprising strength as he kneaded and shaped the bread that had become their family's legacy. "Remember, my son," Hakim would say, "in the hands of a patient man, even the simplest flour can transform into gold." Their modest bakery stood at the crossroads of Damascus, catching the morning sun that illuminated the courtyard where customers gathered. The air was always thick with the comforting scent of fresh bread and the melody of Tariq's cheerful conversations with patrons. Life was simple but satisfying, until the distant rumble of war drums shattered their peaceful existence. Invaders from the north swept through the countryside, their armies advancing like a plague of locusts, devouring everything in their path. As they approached Damascus, panic spread through the city streets. Merchants abandoned their stalls, families fled with whatever they could carry, and the once vibrant markets fell silent under the shadow of impending doom. On a fateful morning, as smoke billowed above the city walls, Hakim made a desperate decision. "Take this," he whispered to Tariq, pressing a small pouch containing 3 gold coins into his son's palm, their entire life savings. "Run to the eastern quarter. Find your Uncle Salim. He will protect you." Before Tariq could protest, the bakery doors splintered open and armed men stormed inside. In the chaos that followed, Tariq was separated from his father, pushed into the surging crowd of terrified citizens. His last glimpse of Hakim was of his father standing defiant, flour-covered hands raised as soldiers ransacked their humble shop. Tariq never saw his father again. The boy's journey to safety was cut short when he was captured by slave traders who followed the armies like vultures, preying on the displaced and vulnerable. Despite his desperate struggles and pleas, Tariq found himself bound and loaded onto a caravan heading east, his father's gold coins discovered and seized. Days blurred into weeks as the caravan traveled across vast deserts, finally arriving at the grand city of Baghdad. There, in the slave market, Tariq was purchased by Ibrahim al-Qadir, a wealthy merchant whose reputation for cruelty preceded him. Ibrahim dealt primarily in textiles, his warehouses filled with silks and cottons from lands Tariq had only heard of in stories. "You will work until your debt is repaid," Ibrahim declared, calculating an impossible sum that included his purchase price and anticipated service. "Disobey, and you will never see freedom." Thus began Tariq's life of servitude. His days started before sunrise, loading heavy bolts of fabric onto wagons, cleaning the warehouse floors, and running errands across the sprawling city. His nights were spent in a cramped corner of the servant quarters, where he would curl up on a thin mat, clutching the memory of his father's last words like a talisman. Yet even in his despair, Tariq observed everything. He listened when merchants negotiated prices, memorized trade routes discussed in Ibrahim's presence, and quietly studied the art of commerce that flowed through Baghdad's veins. 3 years passed, and Tariq grew from a boy into a young man, his body hardened by labor, his mind sharpened by careful observation. Ibrahim, noticing Tariq's intelligence, grudgingly elevated him to assist with inventory and basic accounting, tasks that required literacy and numeracy, skills Tariq had learned from his father. It was during this time that Tariq caught the attention of Amina, Ibrahim's daughter, a young woman whose compassion contrasted sharply with her father's harshness. Secretly, she began teaching Tariq the finer points of their business, sharing books on mathematics and geography when her father was away. "Why help me?" Tariq once asked her. "Because," Amina replied, her eyes reflecting wisdom beyond her years, "my father sees people as tools to be used. I see them as gardens to be cultivated." Under her guidance, Tariq's knowledge expanded exponentially. He learned the language of trade, how to negotiate favorable terms, identify quality goods, and navigate the complex web of relationships that bound merchants together. When Ibrahim fell ill with a mysterious fever, it was Tariq who stepped forward to manage daily operations, making decisions that not only preserved, but improved the business's standing. Upon his recovery, Ibrahim was astounded to find his warehouses more organized, his profits increased, and his reputation enhanced. Though reluctant to acknowledge Tariq's contributions, he recognized the value of the young man's insights. "Perhaps there is more to you than I first believed," Ibrahim conceded, though his words carried no promise of freedom. Fate intervened when a massive caravan arrived from Damascus, bringing not only goods but also stories from Tariq's homeland. Among the travelers was an elderly baker who had known Hakim. "Your father died defending others during the siege," the man told Tariq, his voice heavy with sorrow. "But he spoke of you until his last breath, believing you had found safety." Grief and renewed determination coursed through Tariq's veins. That night, under the silver glow of the full moon, he made a solemn vow. He would honor his father's memory by securing his freedom and rebuilding all that was lost. With calculated precision, Tariq began his ascent. He approached Ibrahim with a bold proposal: allow him to manage a small portion of trade independently, with any profits to be shared and applied toward his freedom price. Skeptical but intrigued, Ibrahim agreed, certain that failure would crush the young man's spirit once and for all. Tariq started modestly, focusing on the spice trade, cinnamon, cardamom, and saffron from lands far to the east. He applied everything he had learned, leveraging relationships built during his years of service. His first venture yielded modest returns, but each successive trade grew more profitable. Ibrahim watched with a mixture of surprise and grudging respect as Tariq's shrewd negotiations and innovative approaches consistently yielded results that exceeded expectations. Word spread through Baghdad's markets of the former baker's son, whose trade instincts seemed almost supernatural. As seasons changed and years passed, Tariq's reputation flourished. He no longer wore the simple garments of a servant, but dressed in the fine robes of a respected merchant. The freedom price that once seemed impossibly high was steadily diminishing. Amina, now a confidant and advisor, encouraged his ambitions while tempering his growing pride. "Remember always where you began," she would remind him. "It is not gold that makes a merchant great, but understanding the true value of things." On the 7th anniversary of his arrival in Baghdad, Tariq counted out the final payment for his freedom, a moment made sweeter by Ibrahim's astonishment at his former slave's accomplishment. "You are no longer bound to me," Ibrahim declared, accepting the payment. "But I would offer you a place in my house, not as a servant, but as a partner." Tariq considered the offer carefully before responding. "I must decline," he said respectfully. "My path leads elsewhere." With his hard-earned capital, Tariq established his own trading house, specializing in goods that connected his new home with his old. He named his enterprise Hakim's Legacy, and above its entrance hung a simple wooden plaque carved with the image of a baker's bread paddle crossed with a merchant's scale, symbols of where he had begun and what he had become. Tariq's business flourished beyond imagination. His caravans traveled to the furthest corners of the known world, bringing back treasures that captivated Baghdad's elite. Yet he never forgot his origins. In the heart of the city, he established a foundation that provided apprenticeships for orphaned children, teaching them both practical skills and the principles of honorable trade. Many years later, when his hair had turned silver and his name had become synonymous with integrity and success, Tariq returned to Damascus. The city had been rebuilt, though scars of the past remained visible in its architecture and people. There, on the site of his father's old bakery, Tariq built a magnificent trading house with an attached bakery that offered free bread to those in need. From flour to fortune, people would say when telling his story, Tariq al-Farsi turned life's bitter grain into the sweetest success. His tale spread across the lands, inspiring generations to believe that even from the humblest beginnings, with perseverance and honor, one could rise to touch the stars themselves. And in the quiet moments of his prosperous life, Tariq would still sometimes knead dough with his own hands, finding in that simple act a connection to his father and a reminder of the journey that had transformed him from a baker's son into the Sultan of trade.